All right, GM fam, we are officially live. It has been one crazy year in crypto since we've last done this last week, and we have a fantastic guest here in Drake on Digital to try and break down absolutely everything that's been happening. Do Kwon has been arrested. Uh, Justin Sun is being sued. Basically, the entire traditional financial system is imploding. Drake, what's on your mind?
Dude, hey, it's an honor to be here, Michael. I appreciate you allowing me to jump on. Still just kind of hungover from the Arbitrum airdrop. That
I
was pretty good.
forgot. I
Uh,
forgot completely the Arbitrum airdrop. Yeah, how did you do on that?
Arbitrum airdrop, man. All I can say was God was blessing on that one, just period. But I did get wrecked a bunch on Arbitrum, but it was fun, man. That's why we're in the game, just to have some fun.
Have you done the math at all to see did the wreckage on Arbitrum exceed the airdrop, or like do you come out ahead or behind overall?
I would say total wreckage in crypto, like paper losses, it definitely didn't compensate that. But for just in general, oh yeah, it definitely covered that just on Arbitrum.
Excellent, excellent. So I actually want to dig in and learn a bit more about that. Like I've mostly been doing my like activity on Ethereum, but I've really noticed that all the best new DeFi protocols are just launching straight to Arbitrum. So it's like this like crazy amount of like builder activity going on in Arbitrum, and I feel like I barely scratched the surface of it. So I'd be really interested in hearing like some of your takes on like what is going on Arbitrum. Where do I need to be paying attention?
So here's the difference between something like Arbitrum and Ethereum. I don't know if you've experienced like Polygon DeFi or Binance Smart Chain DeFi, did you, or you didn't
A
mess
little
with
bit,
those?
a little bit.
Okay. So what's going on, especially with Arbitrum, now that the Arbitrum token dropped, you have a lot of developers that want to create these different protocols. And in order to do that on Ethereum, you have to be able to compete with the big guys. And obviously, retail will have to want to use your different dApps. And a lot of people don't really want to pay up those gas fees. Even when they got a bunch of money, like just in general, some people just don't want to pay those fees. An example is like Warren Buffett. He still goes to McDonald's every morning, yet he has billions, but he still goes to McDonald's. And his wife, she throws like, um, his wife basically determines what he eats that morning by the amount of money she throws on the table. But what you're seeing with Arbitrum is developers coming over there, building on chain, looking for those incentives now that the ARB token has dropped. Now, before the ARB token had even dropped, other people were building on chain because that's where most people were going. Developers like to go where money goes because when they do that, they can get money. Because how these protocols work is they get a percentage of the revenue that goes through the actual dApp itself. And when you have more and more people coming and congregating to a place, you now have more developers wanting to come over there. So just like Curve, where or DeFi protocols, where liquidity attracts traders and traders attract liquidity, it's the same thing in DeFi and on these different chains. Users attract developers, and more developers attract more users. And liquidity incentives are a good tall tale sign of um, a hey, look, this is where you should come because you can make some money here. And with that, a lot of innovation is being built over there. I mean, when you have a bunch of people just looking to build stuff, eventually you're going to get some nice products. Like on Arbitrum, you got Dopex, Lyra Finance just migrated over there. In general, if you don't know what Lyra is, it's like an options protocol. Same with Dopex. You have some degen farms like Radiant Finance. You can go in there. It's similar to Aave, but you can get higher yields by deploying different strategies with looping and whatnot and playing that little game. Then you have Camelot. It's basically a launch pad, but it's, I wouldn't say gamified, but it has some interesting tokenomics to be able to make number go up technologies. Then you have other ones like Ramses or Solid Liz or XCal. These are just like solidly forked. So you just have a bunch of DJing games over there, and you have other people that want to congregate, come over and play the different games and be quote unquote early. That's all.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, which one do you tend to use the most? Do you just kind of like dabble in all of them, or is there like one that you use on like a frequent, like weekly or daily basis?
Lately, I'm a VE33 maxi, so I've been playing a lot of the solidly games. But I'm kind of like on Arbitrum. The ones that I consistently use are like Gains Network. I use GMX. I mainly just LP with some GLP over there, stake some GMX. Same thing on Gains. I'm mainly just staking the GNS. If you don't know what those are basically perp dexes, and the yield is actually in the form of real yield because the traders, as they lose, you as a staker win. But if the traders win, you as a staker lose. But it's skewed into your favor, so it's almost like it's similar. It's a similar model to a casino, to where the fees over time, like a casino charges that house fee if you keep playing. Eventually, over time, if you keep playing that game, all the money will be gone. That's just the law of numbers, how it's going to work. But it's the same thing with GMX. A When a trader opens a trade on GMX, they got to pay a fee, and then they also have the funding fee, etc. And when they do that, that goes a portion goes to the staker and a portion goes to the LP. So the casinos or the house is getting paid in that aspect. Some other farms that I use is like Taro. Taro is a leverage yield farming protocol. It's basically like Yearn Finance, but with leverage. Me personally, I don't go out there and leverage LP, but it's a pretty good strategy if you want to short some of these governance tokens. So, like an example is like Solid Lizard. What you can do is you can do the Sliz token, some ETH, put it in the Taro LP pool, and you can borrow both of the LP token, pay down your ETH debt. That way, the only debt that you have is in the Sliz token. So, technically, what you've done is you've borrowed Sliz, you sold Sliz to pay off your ETH debt, and you're technically shorting Sliz because your debt is in the Sliz token. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's it's
It's wild.
it's a little complex. Sorry. DJing games just go in my head, and that's what I look at with Arbitrum. So everything you can do on Ethereum, but you can do more transactions, so you can make more complex games. It's I don't know. Like I'm a gamer. Like I like to do too much when all you got to do is just sit back and LP on curve or something and just get a nice yield. I like to feel like I did something to earn it.
Oh no, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like I think that this is one of the things that has got so many people into like just crypto generally is it's so easy to like yeah, if you have this gamer background, it's so easy to be like, why don't I up the stakes, put some real money on the line and like, play these like degen games and they're really fun, man. They're really fun. I got into Curve in the first place just because like I wanted to like dip my toe into this ecosystem and like start playing some of these degen games, but I was too timid to like actually like go onto GMX and like do like 50x leverage trades. Because I know like I'm a terrible
Oh, I don't
trader.
do that. Yeah, I don't do that. I don't do that.
Okay.
I just get wrecked doing that.
I mean, I know I'm a terrible trader. Like, I have pretty much never been good at like playing the stock market or anything. So I like recognize that about myself. So you tell me I can sit and earn like a boring 2% yield back in the day when that was a lot? Like, yeah, sure, I'll take that. So now, when you say that like all these traders flock to Arbitrum because of like the developer incentives, I'm like actually a bit curious about this because like pretty much every side chain has been doing what they can to recruit DeFi. Like I remember Avalanche had their like project Avalanche or whatever it was called, where they're trying to like give a bunch of rewards to DeFi
Yeah,
protocols
Avalanche
for
Rush.
Avalanche Rush, yeah. Phantom has been
Yeah.
trying to get like a bunch of DeFi activity on it. Optimism. So, like, what is it about Arbitrum that kind of like got all the builders there as opposed to like some of these other like chains that were also giving out big incentives?
I think it had something to do with the success of Optimism as well as the speculation on an airdrop. So a lot of people, when Optimism was coming out with their airdrop, it actually came out in the bear market, not bear market, but the starting sign of it when the Luna collapsed, 3AC, all kinds of garbage. But when that came out, people weren't really like, "Oh snap, this is awesome! Let's do this. Let's flock here." It was like, "Get the airdrop down." But now you're starting to get signs of a bull market, and people are like, "Wait, Arbitrum still has no token. They have an airdrop, but Optimism, they already airdropped. They already did token." And these two chains are basically going neck and neck for the optimistic roll-ups. And people are like, "Okay, well, Arbitrum's definitely going to have a token. It's the only other one that's going to have one. It doesn't have a token." So for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time, for like 6, 7 months, people were speculating, and you got all these thread ors and people out there like, "Hey, look, if you want to get an airdrop, this is what you need to do. Play on this, this, and this," and basically just thread an Arbitrum. And organically over time, you get more people like, "Oh, this makes sense. Well, why would I use Optimism when I can just use Arbitrum?" And they got similar games over there, and they're actually building more and more games, and over time you get more users over there, which brings more developers, and you get more games bringing more users, and then you have the hype around the airdrop, and then of course they drop the airdrop, and they wait like 7 days, and take a look at the chain and the transactions on chain. It even built more hype because now you have that additional organic, I wouldn't say organic, but you can call it organic because other people are tweeting about it and they aren't paying for it. And you have even more users that come in like, "Oh, I miss this Arbitrum airdrop." Well, looks like they're going to have a grants program. Maybe I can farm it just like I did on Optimism. So you just have more people coming over, and um, sophisticated traders and whales that have a lot of money, they understand the concept of a rising tide lifts all boats. So in DeFi, especially in a bear market, for the most part, it's a PvP battle to where if you aren't the alpha and the winner at that game, or if you aren't able to see the winner, you're the loser. So they're going to be grabbing the yield from you. Whereas when you have a bunch of money flowing in on chain and more money coming in and coming in, eventually that's like, "Oh, well, I got in early. Even though I'm losing compared to someone else, I'm still winning because that new guy is buying up my bags."
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how you have to look at it. That's how most of the traders have that aspect of, okay, money's flowing here. I'll take that bet.
Yeah, it makes sense. And like, so basically, you're saying that because they have like a continued reason and incentives for people to stay there after this, and they're sort of like the last big one to do an airdrop, right? Like, because Optimism already has like, so basically, it's like just the right time. There's nowhere better to go. But like, would you be bearish if like one of these other chains, like, I'm trying to imagine a chain that hasn't done an airdrop yet. Let's say base chain. Um, Maybe they settle with the SEC tomorrow and they decide, okay, we're going to launch a token now. Would that move all the developers from Arbitrum over to Base or whatever is like offering the next great rewards?
The guy who's going to put out the carrot over there is going to bring all the kids,
Hmm.
or candy, not carrot. The
Yeah, kids still get
any chain
carrots.
that's gonna, yeah, kids don't eat carrots anymore. The chain that's gonna throw out that candy, the kids are gonna flock to it.
So you're saying it's fickle.
I,
It's developers are fickle.
yeah, yeah, like an example of this was Kava, like 2 weeks ago. It was all the Kava narrative, man. You can see it on the chain. The TVL inflows are like up 20, 30% because they were like, "Hey, look, we're doing a $750 million liquidity incentive." So they were basically just injecting money into the chain. So everyone's like, "I'm coming over, I'm coming over." And then and people were leaving Arbitrum. They were leaving Arbitrum to go to Kava. And then Arbitrum's like, "Okay, well, airdrop." And then everyone's like, "Okay, well, I'm leaving Kava and I'm going to Arbitrum. I'll come over to Arbitrum." And now that the airdrop has dropped, I do see the grants program retaining a couple of the users, not couple, but several users, but there will be a percentage that leaves and goes to other chains. I do see them coming back to Kava, I see some of them potentially going over to things like Phantom or Optimism, and kind of predicting and front running the narrative of base chain, because base chain is built on the optimistic uh, tech stack or optimism tech stack. So basically a percentage of those transactions are going to go to the Optimism Foundation, and there will be narratives that develop around that. And then obviously if base chain does roll out their own token, the guy was pretty adamant. When I say the guy, I'm talking about Brian Armstrong. He was pretty adamant about not having a token, but we know how that goes. He's probably going to have a token.
Well,
And then you also,
he's
and then
got
you had
bigger fish
ZK
to fry
Sync.
right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then you got ZK Sync that just dropped today. So they're probably going to be like, oh, come over here. It's airdrop, guys.
Yeah, let's
But
talk about
whatever.
ZK Sync for a bit. Are you pretty active there with the whole
I mean,
ZK
there's no
Sync ecosystem?
games. Not many games. I
Fair,
mean, I got
fair,
a
fair.
little bit of Zigzag, and
But
I played around with like a couple of NFT platforms. I don't even remember what they were called. I obviously bridged just in case. Um, I don't know. There's not much to do there.
well, they just went live today, is my understanding, right?
Yeah, there
Um,
should be some games coming.
got it, got it. And anything that you're expecting in particular from there? Like, what are you watching for around ZK Sync?
Airdrop,
Just airdrop? That's it.
airdrop. I mean, if they get some fun games, I'll play in the fun. But like with Arbitrum, I actually enjoyed that chain, and that's one of those things to take from it. If you're just going to go over an airdrop farm, you probably won't get a good allocation. But if you do go over there and you actually enjoy the games and actually play on chain like a normal user, like I did over on Arbitrum, I actually enjoyed what they built over there. I got a really good allocation of it. Uh, it was a blessing from God. That's all I can say.
Excellent, excellent. And by the way, I see Waffle has joined the Discord. Waffle, are you here just to listen, or are you interested in joining the chat?
Oh snap! We got another guy,
And here comes AJ. AJ, Waffle.
AJ Waffles.
Uh,
Hey guys, how's everyone doing?
doing pretty
What's
good. How
up?
about yourself?
Pretty good. Enjoying the conversation. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, my pleasure. What about you? Did you get any Arbitrum airdrop?
I actually got some. And honestly, I was anti airdrops because I also come with some kind of background in the Cosmos ecosystem, and I've seen how it can get quickly corrupted. But
I'll
I
take
read a
your
lot.
airdrop.
Say again?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I was saying, yeah, they did it well, and actually it was quite kind of generous, and I didn't expect it. So pretty happy about it.
That's nice to hear. Where should people be looking for the next airdrop other than ZK, EVM, and whatnot? Are there particular like websites that you all go to track airdrops? Are there particular resources or like people you follow on Twitter that are really good resources for figuring out where I might need to be doing activity today so I can get a big airdrop tomorrow?
Well, I mean, for me at least, I try to follow the money. So look to see who got recent funding. So Scroll it's like a little ZK thing as well. They got a lot of funding. I think it was like 80 mil, or it wasn't 800 mil. It was like 80 mil from some basically just VCs. Like, hey, here's some money. Typically, when that happens, they look to announce an airdrop. I'm still waiting on the MetaMask airdrop. um, the other ones would be like Starknet, obviously ZK Sync. Those are just a couple of different chains that received a lot of funding that could potentially have an airdrop. Then you already have the ones with the news already out, like Kava. They already dropped their liquidity mining incentive. It's not an airdrop like you're thinking like Arbitrum, but it's similar to something like Optimism, but on roids, because there's not a lot of people on Kava, so you can get a larger share. And 750 mil, it's a lot of money. I mean, the chain is only has about 250 in liquidity, 250 mil or 240 actually. So
Gotcha.
just kind of looking at the percentages, it's a lot. Other than that, I mean, nothing really. There will be others that do come up. There are some other like off off-brand chains or some random chains that got like 8 million or 4 million. In my opinion, it's really not worth playing around with those, because sometimes you spend so much time, waste so much money, and mess around with it. You end up getting like a $40 airdrop. It's not worth it.
So yeah, that makes sense. I made a few like I won't say enemies, but I got a little pushback because about a year ago or so, I wrote an article, basically questioning the structure of airdrops. I basically said like I'm not really sure that airdrops are actually like a great investment necessarily, for like if you're so basically like if you're a protocol and you're looking to kind of attract users, oftentimes like the people who are like parachuting in for an airdrop and then disappearing as soon as they can, oftentimes they're not like the best users because they're just going to grab the token, they're going to dump it, and they're going to move on to the next thing, so it's not like super sticky. So I contrast this with like some of the other like protocols that were doing like more interesting takes on airdrops, like in particular like Aladdin DAO's concentrator was launching around that time, and instead of just doing an airdrop, they were doing like an initial farm offering, where basically like if you were aping into a certain pool, you would through the farming rewards receive the entirety of the airdrop. Um,
Yeah.
and like the idea with that is like then when you're done with that, like it would transition back into like regular rewards instead of airdrop rewards. So it would get people kind of accustomed to this idea of like farming, and it would have some users that might get locked in because they forgot about it or something. But what do you think about like that? Should protocols rethink how they do airdrops? Are there any doing like more interesting structures than just kind of you do something, get token dumps, you leave, you get like a one-time buzz, and then that's it?
So this is how I see the structure of airdrops that are actually beneficial. I don't think it's really smart for protocols to technically do the airdrop unless they do the mechanism that you were talking about. Um, like I would say it depends on the protocol, actually. So an example is like an Aave fork or Radiant Finance. I mean, I couldn't, I don't really see the value of doing like an airdrop. However, with something like a solidly fork, a VE fork, I could see value in airdropping other solidly degens that play on other chains, but giving them the form of the locked token. That way, they can't sell their token. However, they can play in the game and enjoy in it and be a user or whatever you want to call it. Another example of one that I do see being a good alternative for airdrops is a protocol, just being the receiver of the airdrop on the chain. So the chain itself doing the airdrop. So like Optimism, Arbitrum, I see this as a smart marketing tactic and to bring more users, because the chain benefits itself, or not the chain benefits itself, the chain benefits from the users on the chain. So I guess it would benefit itself. So as more transactions are going on there, this would bring more value to the Arbitrum as a chain. So this will also bring other users as well as other developers on there coming to farm and get the airdrop. And then you also have, instead of just like one lump sum going to the developers, it's a drip. So basically, they get a little bit here and there, and this keeps the developers going and developing on the chain. And then it also attracts other developers, which when you have more developers on there, it brings more users. So airdropping them to developers, in my opinion, is a better approach to it. And then you can give some to the users, just to act like you did something for them, and they get excited. Hype builds around it. They share with their friends. They're like, "Dude, I got this airdrop. You didn't get it. You're a loser, but you should still come use it so you can farm," type of thing. But it's fun. So so in summary, um, I think it's smart for the chain to do airdrops, not necessarily a protocol, unless you have the networks where it will benefit you, something like a solidly VE33 fork. Like if you're airdropping other forks, they would be like, "Oh, this is great, awesome. I'll play in your DGen game. but I can't sell your token, so I'm not going to hurt your price, but I'll play in your game so I can get some rewards.
Nice, nice. So one thing that I thought was kind of interesting was I was looking over, and here Arbitrum News DAO posted the list of the DAOs that were receiving the Arbitrum airdrop. Um, and number 6 on the list was Curve Finance, which I think is like pretty cool. It's Curve is set to get 3.5 million ARB tokens from that, which is pretty substantial sum. And like my guess is that Curve will just kind of like redirect that back, at least in part, to LP emissions, so that users who are on the Curve like Arbitrum version of Curve will like be able to like see greater incentives and whatnot. But the reason I think it's interesting is because if you look at Curve Finance itself, it really doesn't spend all that much effort or energy on Arbitrum. So let me see if I can pull up the Curve site here and look at the Arbitrum pools. But it's pretty much like there's
They
very
got the
few.
wrap stake ETH and ETH pool. That's pretty cool.
That one's pretty cool. They don't have the V2 factory live yet, though, so it's not even possible to launch like your own like version of Try Crypto, for example. Um, and as far as like protocols on Curve that are streaming emissions to like a sidechain Arbitrum gauge, it's like only the official Curve pools that are doing this. So there's like not all that many pools on Curve Arbitrum, and yet that was enough to get it a $3 million airdrop. So does that suggest something about about the like potential for all these other apps? Like DopeX is ahead of Curve on that, and then DopeX is Arbitrum native, and so is GMX, and I'm not really sure what Treasure DAO is. But like,
It's an NFT platform.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
But like of the top 6 here, like 3 of these are protocols that are mainly focused on Ethereum and just kind of like vultured their way into Arbitrum. So does that mean that we're probably going to see like all these other long tail of Arbitrum protocols like suddenly see this huge jump? Like it doesn't like I guess what I'm saying is like given Curve's lack of effort in Arbitrum, it should be pretty easy for other protocols to land in the top 5 here.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say for the protocols itself, what you're seeing with Curve, I think Curve mainly just because it has just a massive TVL just in general, how it works, and I'm sure is able to accumulate a lot of TVL with that wrap stake ETH and that ETH pool. And also since they were one of the OGs, that's why they got a higher allocation. So when Arbitrum first dropped out, any of the protocols that got in there early, or any of the people that were using the chain early, they would have got a higher airdrop. Because if you saw like the specifications and the requirements for it, they went by month basis. So if you were on chain since day one, you're gonna get a higher allocation. Whereas someone who just gets on like a month before the airdrop, which is things like Camelot, or well, I mean, it wasn't a month, but they were like 3 or 4 months. Or Ramsey's exchange, a lot of these newer protocols that just dropped, they aren't going to get as large of an allocation. In fact, Ramsey's, they didn't drop quick enough to even get an allocation. It's just a solidly fork. But
Interesting.
but I do see that benefiting Curve, if they are to deploy some of the ARB token to some of the users, similar to like Optimism did, because the TVL is pretty healthy for Curve on Optimism. Um, but as for the protocols coming over to Arbitrum, I think we're going to see a little bit of settling after this ARB token dropped, with people either selling or going into the protocols. But now you don't have that anticipation and that like, oh, hey, look, money's flowing here, it's going to come over here. Instead, people are going to be flowing out, in my opinion, to other opportunities. I mean, there is going to be some staying on chain, and I am keeping positions on chain, but I also have other positions on other chains because I'm anticipating a liquidity flow over there. Like I mentioned to you, the ones that I'm looking at right now is an additional one coming over to Optimism for people that left Optimism to go to Arbitrum. Kava for people that left Kava to go to Arbitrum. Um, Phantom. I do like Phantom. They have the runway narrative, and in my opinion, they've just been beat down a lot. They can go down some more, but I mean, it's only so much you can go. It's one of the few chains out there that I just like to use in general without any incentives. I don't even care, but it's got good farming over there, and Phantom's not like something like AVAX or any of these other copy chains like Polygon. They have their own innovation, they have their own original ideas, they have their own original concepts, original farms, like Equalizer decks over there. It's one of the most successful VE33 forks outside of Velodrome, of course, but I see the success of Velodrome because they got the Optimism airdrop, and they basically pay people to lock up and stake. Equalizer doesn't pay people and lock up and stake. It's just natural, and they aren't competing with Uniswap V3, which is concentrated liquidity, which is usually the death of these solidly forks, because you can't compete with it on fees. Well, not fees, but like the concentration, like liquidity wise. Because when you concentrate liquidity, you're going to get better prices. And what these solidly forks thrive on is having high volume. And if there's a concentrated liquidity protocol stealing their volume, it's not going to be able to pay their users. But yeah, in general, on Arbitrum, I think it will be successful long term, but I think there's going to need to be some cooling off short term.
Interesting, interesting. By the way, I don't know if you heard the full story of Curve's Optimism grant, but it's still in limbo. Curve has not received it yet.
Really? So how are they paying out some of the OP token?
So if you
That
look
was
at
the
it,
initial?
the only ones that are getting OP tokens are synthetics. So here you can see synthetics SUSD and synthetics ETH. So
That makes
synthetics
sense.
did get Optimism tokens, and they're streaming it to their pools. But all the other ones, like it's kind of dead. They basically like, and I haven't followed the saga too closely because I'm not a lawyer and I don't understand these lawyer things. But they basically are asking Curve to register a legal entity to get their grant. And the Curve DAO does not have a legal footprint to do so. And then Michael does have an organization, but it doesn't seem like it's legally able to also receive this. So there's basically no way that they can get this grant from Optimism, is my understanding.
Wow.
So it's kind of crazy.
That makes me bearish on Optimism. I didn't know they had those shenanigans going on. I wonder if it's going on for other protocols.
I don't know. I haven't asked the other protocols. Just kind of a crazy fun story. I don't know if it's fun's the right word, but
Yeah, well, I mean, the synthetics pools, they're pretty good over on Optimism, especially that ETH, dude. It's like 11-12% on ETH, paid
yeah.
in OP and swap fees as well as Curve. You can't beat that. But yeah, I guess it's synthetics bailing you guys out.
Now I think that by and large, like I don't think it's an official strategy of Curve, but I think most of the kind of locus of what Curve is focusing on is Ethereum. And I don't think it's like a knock
I
against
think
the
it's
side
smart.
chains. I think it's just that there's so much going on Ethereum, and at the moment with the bear market, like there's not really a ton of volume flowing into DeFi anywhere, much less the side chains. So I think the side chains just like until they kind of wake up, I don't think Curve is going to be focusing its full attention on side chains. I do think Curve is super focused on launching a lot of side chains though, so it's kind of a interesting blend
Don't
there.
they have their stablecoin rolling out pretty soon?
Yes, soon trademark. But there's been, if you go in the Discord, you'll see a lot of really salty people asking, like, when is soon going to come? I'm tired of waiting. Um, so,
Yeah, that one guy is super salty, who was short and Curve. You guys wrecked him.
Avi, yeah, well, I think the
Yeah,
feds
Avi.
wrecked him more for his mango market
Yeah,
manipulation. But,
yeah.
without getting kind of too technical on it, if you pop into the GitHub, you can basically see, I've got the GitHub on the screen here. You can see in the upper right here the commit history and go into it and see that like it's basically 90% Mitch. just he's plugging away at this hardcore. So he's still making like weekly, usually daily commits as he's kind of still tweaking it, still like going through all the edge cases to make sure that like people aren't going to get wrecked. And I really support this. Is the funny thing, like we're coming up on like a year since CurveUSD was announced, maybe, or started to be rumored, and I say take another 5 years because like once you deploy this, you're not going to like have any like second chances, right? Like if people put $1 million in there and it gets drained, like that's going to be probably an existential crisis for Curve. So why not take time to do it right and get it there?
Yeah, that's a good point. I've seen a lot of these guys who try to move fast and break things. What's the dude's Zuckerberg's quote? Move fast and break things. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't
I
know
don't
if
know.
it's Zuckerberg or
So,
what, but it does not apply to DeFi, not at all.
yeah, I know that's what I was saying. Is like I've seen a lot of these protocols that just roll out and try to get something out quick, and they end up rugging their users. Not like them rugging it, but like they just build a piece of code that basically allows users to get rugged because they didn't code it properly, or like the stable coin. It's not like it's thinking using like a borrowing or a lending protocol, a money market, for example, and hard coding a stable coin at $1. I mean, you can't do that junk. People are going to get wrecked from that. Just stuff like that. Yeah, it's always best to uh, measure twice and cut once. That would translate to DeFi. That not cutting. Be like test your code 3 times and then deploy.
Yeah, it's yeah, as we saw this so happen so many times in the past year, and like I don't know about you, but like I am personally getting like very tired of all these hacks and like all the people losing money because I've been pretty lucky. Like I lost a little bit, or potentially lost a little bit through one protocol, Bancor. But other than that, like I've been
Oh, I
most
remember that.
yeah, it was a bummer. But other than that, I've been mostly fine. And there was like only a small amount of money I was playing around with Bancor anyway. Um, but like I know people who had a lot of money in Euler finance, which maybe they'll get some money back, but it's not looking good. I know people that were
A
wrecked by
bean sprout.
Beans. The same person I know who was wrecked by both Beans and then Euler. I know people that were wrecked by Terra. I know people that were wrecked by FTX, and it's really like existentially tough for me to sit here and say this is okay.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of it, man. Luna definitely got me pretty good,
And
but
speaking of Luna,
geez.
there's some breaking news. Anyone who's watching the video, there's footage of Do Kwon and Han Cheng Jun. I'm not sure who that is. Must be an accomplice. Entering the police car, presumably in Montenegro, in handcuffs.
Huh, interesting. Wonder what they're charging him for.
Oh, I saw that. It's like they're throwing the book at him, basically.
Nice.
So, I feel fine on that one. Um, but I think if it hadn't come amidst like the SEC and like everyone else going after, like Coinbase and for example, and like all these other like more upstanding, what I consider to be like upstanding DeFi protocols, like I probably would be celebrating a bit more.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I think I side with you a little bit on that. I don't think this is something we should be celebrating because it's not necessarily good for DeFi. But it's also something we shouldn't be saying, "Oh, this is horrible," because I mean, I don't know what the guy did, and I'm kind of staying neutral on this one, even though I got wrecked and lost a good, pretty penny. It's not good for the DeFi space. Just in general, like Tornado Cash, uh, the developer just going to it's not good for, even though like sure maybe some money is washed through there, it's good protocol. It serves its purpose, and I mean he shouldn't go to jail for something like that. Do Kwon, on the other hand, I don't know what he did. Like if he just built that protocol, that's one thing, but if there was like inside job, like inside dealings, and yeah, definitely something that's well deserved, but I wouldn't be too happy about it for the DeFi space, at least.
So, according to Twitter user Pledator, I don't know if this is this is an accurate list of charges or not. They're screenshotting what looks to be the actual case. The charges include conspiracy to defraud, 2 counts of commodities fraud, 2 counts of securities fraud, 2 counts of wire fraud, and market manipulation. So he's going to be probably spending several years spending a lot of whatever money he leaked from that system on lawyers.
Maybe just mint some UST to pay it off.
Then we could just add a few more charges.
Yeah.
What do you think about all the kind of like regulatory action? Not so much like the Do Kwon, because I think we agree that like we probably want to see him squirm a little bit in court. But like, what do you think about the Coinbase one?
I think that's unfair. I mean, these guys are trying to play good, and I mean, I'm not much of a CeFi guy. I don't like these exchanges, Coinbase, Binance, but I mean, they're needed for our industry, so I try to stay neutral on them. But like Coinbase, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. They shouldn't be trying to penalize users that are actually trying to play by the game. In my opinion, Coinbase is actually trying to be good boys in this situation. Out of all the other exchanges like Binance, I mean, you aren't going to get any cooperation out of them. But with Coinbase, they're actually trying to cooperate, and then they get penalized for it. Look, dude, why would someone want to cooperate with you if you're just basically saying, yeah, oh, wait, we're not going to cooperate with you because now you're cooperating with us? I mean, it's like a little girl. What do you want?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm actually like bizarrely bullish on crypto. I guess I'm like perma bullish, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. But I kind of see this as fairly bullish for.
Oh,
So okay,
bullish for DeFi, dude.
well, definitely
Bullish.
bullish for DeFi. Now, yeah, I think that's like definitely a distinction worth making, which is that like I think that nothing that the SEC can do can actually hurt like real crypto. They can hurt U.S. companies that want to get involved in crypto. They can hurt U.S. citizens. They can hurt the U.S.'s like national prospects. But cryptocurrency will be fine, right? Like DeFi is just going to keep doing DeFi. The Arbitrum did not like bother like they didn't think twice about airdropping. Like this stuff is going to keep playing out. But for the like US and crypto policy, I'm actually pretty bullish because they picked a fight with some of the best lawyers. This court case is going to go on for a very long time, and I'm not convinced it's going to go in the SEC's favor. So I kind of expect that for one, the US might get regulatory clarity on this front. Like we might actually see like the courts say to the SEC, you can't do this. And we might also see like we might see the SEC lose, or even if the SEC wins, at the very least, like they will win, but I think it will remove some of the ambiguity that they use. So like that's kind of like my bullish legal take.
Yeah, the main concern I see right now is choke point. Because if money can't get in, it can't play. So I mean, sure, DeFi and crypto will survive, but at that point, it's just gonna be a straight PvP game where eventually the whales are just gonna accumulate all the money, and anyone who is able to cash out little by little, over time, it's going to deflate what's in there, as people do cash out. But yeah, I think that's the biggest concern for me. Not
So yeah, it's
like
fair.
concern for me, like not a concern for me. Like I'm bullish on DeFi crypto. Like my money is just staying on there. I don't care.
Yeah.
I see it as a concern just in general for crypto as a whole. Because if it's a one-way street, people aren't going to want to get in. And then like if they see it like that, even though the rails are open right now, if they do close them down, then it's going to be like, wait, I go in here, I'm probably not getting out. Like going here by other means, by trading out on a externally, like, hey, give me some crypto, I'll give you cash type of thing.
Right. So I mostly agree. Although I'll point out that for the past year, it has been PvP. There's been no new money flowing in for the past year in
Oh
DeFi.
yeah.
So, and
Yeah,
DeFi's still
yeah.
been
Well, I was
fairly
just
fun.
meaning like it would be, I was just meaning like it would be even worse to where like if we think people are exiting now, just wait till the rails
True.
get to the last one, then it's going to be a flood for the exits, and then it's going to be giga PvP.
True, true that. Although what you might see, and I haven't actually looked at this, I'm going to check this now while we're talking, because trends are not so good in the United States, right? Um, but like the China narrative is, I visited Hong Kong pretty recently. The China narrative is not like just hopium. The China narrative is actually pretty real. Although it doesn't look like
Yeah,
there's any value flowing into Binance Smart Chain, which was what you'd expect. In fact, the opposite, 40% weekly change
I I I look at the
outflow.
China narrative as some of the Chinese tokens. Like, have you seen CFX CoinFlux? It's
Mm,
basically like Phantom but China edition. It's basically like their Ethereum that's like good boys over in China. And then you have something like ACH, which is Alchemy Pay. Those coins are outperforming the markets pretty well. You have other ones like CKB, Nervous Network, that are more so just Chinese developers. I don't really see a massive narrative for them unless it's just like a Coke Pepsi type of thing. I see CFX as the Coke and maybe Nervous Network as the Pepsi. ACH is pretty cool. It's basically like the on ramp for fiat to crypto for Chinese. I think it's
interesting.
going to get a run when Hong Kong opens up in June.
Interesting. Interesting. So, like, yeah, I mean, if the US like shuts down crypto too much, I think what you'll probably just see is like all these kind of like China crypto projects end up being where all the attention and money goes. And I think some
Yeah.
USD gens will maybe like find their way through VPNs or whatever crazy tricks to like to play with the China tokens. And it's going to be like super ironic for the land of the free. But it's the choice our elected representatives have made.
It's also the home of the Braves, so
That's true too. And I ultimately think that. So I talked with DeFi Dave last week, who's like part of the Frax Flywheel team. He also was a Hill turn before this, and he just gave a talk in East Denver on regulation. He was super bullish. He says that America, like generally over the long run, gets these things right. Oftentimes there's like a lot of conflict and struggle to get there. But in the like grand arc of things, America kind of gets things right. His example is like the internet. Like America did not flub the internet. Quite the opposite. A lot of the key pieces of infrastructure for the internet are based here in America. So he's pretty confident that over the long run, America's going to come to its senses. We'll see though.
yeah, I feel like I want to agree with that, and I side to agreeing that, but then a little bit of me tells me it's like, wait, they're trying to roll out Biden dollar, they're trying to roll out these not stimmy checks, but UBI.
Yeah.
It's going to be like one of those things. Are we going to turn it into a communist country? And then at that point, if we are, then it's like, oh well, there goes growth.
Well, that.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it rolls. I think if we get some new people, uh, actually, I probably shouldn't say that. If we do some other stuff, then the people there, maybe better times will come.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I Okay, so first off, like Hall's law, first law of technology is that no technology stops at any country's borders. So
Amen.
anything that like it works in good and bad ways. So like China's social credit system, that's not going to stop at China's borders. Like that is going to find its way to the United States. And pretty much anything you read about in terms of like China suppressing speech in certain ways, that technology finds its way in the U.S. too. So it's like if China is doing things that we look at and say it's totalitarian and repressive, we got to watch out because it's also going to find its way here too. Um, Now, FedNow is really interesting. I think that FedNow, like, so from reading about it, like they talk about FedNow being having basically different forms. Like there's business or government to business and government to consumer version of it. What I think is going to happen is they're going to be blocked somewhat by popular outcry on the FedNow to consumer side. They're going to deploy it just as like a Rails for banks. Um, Banks will like it because it's going to reduce settlement time, and then they're going to start making the argument that like, look at this amazing service that's being given to banks. Consumers should get it, but it's being blocked by partisan squabbling. And probably within a few years, that argument takes hold, and we start seeing people getting on board into the CBDC. That's like my short version of what I think is maybe going to happen with FedNow. But what's your thoughts on it? FedNow, CBDCs.
How I see CBDCs and FedNow is what they're going to do is create it to where you have a form of UBI for the rest of like just people in general, not just businesses and banks. But that it acts like a not a gift card, but more like a coupon to where, hey, look, here's some free money, but it expires at a certain date. You need to use it by so and so. Because if you just give out a bunch of free money with UBI, you run into the issue of like, hey, how's this stimulating the economy? The second thing I see it as is permissioned payments. So, like, if you want to go buy this thing and they did bad and it's not something the company or not company, but the country agrees with and they want you doing, they won't let you buy it. You can only buy certain things. So, like, I don't know, just say a gun, for example. They're like, oh, we're against guns. You can't use your payment to go buy a gun. You can only buy like ramen noodles or food or whatever type of thing.
So if they launch a CBDC like this, and it has a lot of this kind of oppressive stuff built in, what would your reaction be? Are you just going to boycott it? Are you going to say, heck no, not touching this?
Well, the Bible actually talks about a one world payment system,
Oh, is that
and
Revelations?
basically, yeah,
Oh
and
no.
it talks about like a one world payment system and taking the mark of the beast. I mean, it could be towards signs of that, but I wouldn't mess with it. I'm like if they're giving it out, I'm not even going to touch with it or even touch it or even use it. Um, I would just yeah, not even register for it.
I mean, I'm sympathetic to it. What if they go a step further and say, in order to pay your taxes, you can only pay them using CBDC?
Well, then I guess I'm not going to be living here.
Oh wow. So you would actually move out of the United States if that happened,
I mean,
if
you
you're
got
a
to think
United
about
States
it.
citizen.
It's like
I don't want to dox your
it's
location.
yeah, it's like one of those things where they're forcing it upon you. I mean, I mean, if they're able to do that, just imagine. Um, I would definitely just relocate, move, go somewhere else, pick up and go. Um, it's not hard to pick up and go.
It's true. I mean, I'm debating. I might do the same. I so I've traveled a fair amount recently, and one of the conclusions I came to is that, like, I don't know, growing up here in America, like I always thought like, oh, America is like first world, everywhere else is like third world. But I've traveled to a lot of places lately, and America does not compare favorably. Just like a random story, like I was in Thailand, and uh, the person I was traveling with went into the hospital to get an ear procedure done. It was just like the ear was clogged from swimming. So in the time it took, like basically like dropped her off, and I went downstairs to the Starbucks. I had my laptop. I was ready to work because I was like, this is gonna take a long time. Before I got my coffee, she was done with her procedure, and it cost less than
Wow.
$100.
Well,
This is
I
America.
would I would kind of say there are some countries, I don't know which ones exactly, that actually offer really, really low cost healthcare. It's basically subsidized. But yeah, that's I mean,
Yeah,
can't
we
beat
get
that.
in America, you wouldn't expect that. Like it would be 4 weeks to schedule an appointment. Be
Yeah.
you expect to block out the entire morning, if not the entire day. That's just one example. Like the services that we get in America, and the quality of life is not really an argument for staying in America. And by the way, there is a article here. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz has introduced a bill to stop the Fed from adopting a CBDC. Do we think that there's much chance this actually becomes a political issue enough that it blocks the Fed?
I think some of the states like Texas, Florida, I think they're going to rebut. That's the type of people, and maybe even threaten to like separate into their own country or do that type of funny thing.
That
But
would be pretty
I mean,
crazy.
I definitely see them as rebutting.
So that's some good news, I think. But I guess we'll have to see. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Gosh, I've already been chewing up your time for like an hour here. So if you need to bounce, by all means, feel free to bounce.
No,
But
you're good. You're good. I have a podcast at 1:30, so I'm good for another however long you need. I mean, I don't see it taking longer than an hour type of thing.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm just curious, like, what other things are you interested in chatting about that I've not brought up yet? I feel like I've been like pushing random discussion topics on you. Like, what's on your mind lately regarding crypto?
Man, I think really the biggest thing is what are going to be the next narratives, and like I still see a lot out there that people are like, oh, buy this coin, do this, or like this is going to be the next big thing, and it lasts like 2 days. I think the biggest thing I'm looking for is, I mean, real yield is pretty enticing, but I'm looking for the next narrative that's actually a sustainable narrative. So I guess, for lack of a better word, real narrative,
Real
like
narrative,
real
not real
yield,
yield.
real narrative, real narrative is what I'm looking for.
And is this specifically within DeFi, or might it be something weird like an NFT evolution or some like new like revolution in DAOs?
I think there is going to be a merge of NFTs and DeFi sometime in the future, even with some sort of on-chain credit system that sees your history in DeFi. If you uh, like basically how you are, do you lever up to the max and go at a 1.01 health ratio, or you're pretty good person who doesn't get liquidated, repays your loans on time type of thing. I think we're going to get that in a form of a soulbound NFT for each wallet, and maybe that will allow the integration of under collateralized loans, or
Interesting.
potentially even being able to have a NFT that we're already starting to see this, that you can get loans against based on this on-chain credit system.
Interesting. Interesting. That would be really cool. Do you think it's going to work though? Because like you don't
Well,
lose
I
the
can I
NFT. You're not
can
putting the NFT up as collateral. It's just your reputation is up as collateral, and people are willing to burn their reputation for probably $1,000, right?
well, you'll still have to put some up. It won't be fully just like credit based. I see it more as a under collateralized loan, but basing it off of that, I would say uh, it would more so need to be more connections. So instead of just like going off strictly on-chain wallet activity, it will have to be more connections, as in like your Twitter, um, possibly Discord, YouTube, like just taking into consideration your social profiles. I mean, sure, if it gets a large enough number, yeah, there is always that chance. But I'm sure the on-chain data will be strong enough to be able to be like, oh, this guy just wallet hops. Here's 3 different wallets, or oh, this wallet just got money from KuCoin, or just got all of its money from Bybit. Like, we don't know who this is. There's eventually going to be an on-chain credit system to where the guy who just burns that wallet, there will be a way to be able to trace him back to his new wallet and be like, oh, bro, you just deposited 10,000 US. Oh, well, you defaulted over here, so that actually goes straight through back to them. Sorry.
Interesting. That would be super cool. I just I hope it works. I really do hope it works because I think if we get under collateralized lending on DeFi, it's going to just get crazy. It's the one thing that we've not been able to figure out on chain. I'm skeptical it's ever going to get figured out, to be honest.
Eventually it will. If it can't just be on chain, it'll be off chain, on chain. So you'll be able to get a loan like against. I mean, I wouldn't consider it under collateralized, but you're already living in the house. You're here, but you can basically get a loan against your house on chain. Like you tokenize it as an NFT and say, look, this is the deed to the house. Da 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 da. And obviously, the court system needs to be able to hold up against that and be able to have something that's like, oh, this guy owns your NFT. You got to get out. We're foreclosing on you. Sorry.
Yeah, I've actually thought about this, and I want to kind of go through this kind of step by step with you. Since do you mind if I dox that in real life you do real estate stuff? If that's an issue,
Well, you just did.
I know, but if it's an issue, I can turn the video
I'm kidding.
private.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I can.
I'm kidding.
Whenever I talk about things that are too spicy on this, I just delete the video after we're done.
No, you're good. You're good. I've told people I'm already in. I've told some people I'm in real estate already. So
Yeah, because I actually think that there could be an application built that is this sort of like hybrid online offline entity. It probably couldn't be based in the United States just given the regulatory crackdown, but let's imagine like a Cayman's entity or something, right? Where like Cayman's a bit friendlier for crypto, let's say, and I think Cayman Islands companies are allowed to own real estate in America, right? Let's just
I
presume.
don't know. Let's just assume.
Yeah, let's presume that there's a legal entity that can both hold crypto and can like buy houses. Um, so theoretically, and we were talking about this a bit before the show, like you could do like a pretty good business if you are like finding, let's say, some like crypto whales that are interested in buying a house. They want to take out an under collateralized loan for it. And maybe they don't have a real job, so their bank account shows like there's $50 in it, but you look at their on-chain wallet, and you see that there's 5 million. You know them in person, so you think it's not the biggest risk to say like let them live in the house while this Cayman entity owns the deed to it. They're making payments, let's say on-chain payments, through like some sort of like ERC 721 NFT type contract, and you just have like the company has a written agreement that says once we've received all of the funds from you, um, on chain, you sent us all the Ethereum or all the USDC or whatever, then we promise to give you the deed to the house. And if you stop payment, then we kick you out. We keep the house. Like that's not that risky for the Caymans entity, is it?
Oh well, I mean, it depends. Like, well, it's not risky. Well, I mean, of course, it is risky if they don't pay, but
Right.
we have smart contracts that allow for that already. So if they already have the money on chain, what would happen is you just use something like Llama Pay and
Mm-hmm.
throw the funds in there, and they're slowly dripped over to the company. I mean, the integration is already set up for that. But more so, what I'm interested or what I see as the future for some NFTs, I'm also looking for some developers to build this. Is a way to tokenize this real estate and fractionalize it. So the problem with a lot of people getting into real estate is that they can't just straight up buy a house, but they would love to have the yield from it, like in the form of like renting and you have REITs and stuff on the stock market, but some people want to do it in a decentralized way and they want to be able to know what they own. Like whereas with a REIT, you have no idea what you own. You just own a basket of houses. Whereas if you own this NFT, you'd be like, I own this NFT on 123 Main Street, and
Mm-hmm.
I get 10% of these rents because I own one of the 10 of 10 NFTs type of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And is there a reason that this isn't being done yet? Is it just too tough to bridge off on chain?
I don't think it's too tough. I think it's having the networks. Like I have the investors, I have the networks to build it. I just don't have the coders to do it. So I think it's just a matter of meeting the two people together and being able to deploy it.
Got it. Because what you're talking about from a coding perspective doesn't sound too difficult.
No, shouldn't be
Like
complex.
you're
That's
just
what I'm
talking.
saying. It's just a matter of having the networks. Like, really, what could happen, and I'm not saying anyone should do this because it's not right, is people can say, hey, look, this is this house here. And some people may not, they may just trust and not verify. And they're like, oh, they own this house on chain and I'm getting 10% when really the yield is just in the form of Peter paying Paul, like other people buying in, and they're slowly siphoning that money that they pay in, some to their pockets, some to the new users, and yeah, um, that's why you also there probably are some protocols out there that are already deployed that have this type of thing, like, hey, we own this house here, and this is the yield, that are actually fake, just taking advantage of the system.
Got it. Got it.
I what I'm trying to do is do it in a legitimate way, like actually tokenize houses, because I have a portfolio of real estate and I have several investors that are looking to liquidate and be able to sell, um, and do this in the form of an NFT, or at least some of them that are looking to hold their houses but are willing to fractionalize it at a premium and be able to distribute that yield to other people.
Oh, interesting.
So a legitimate way is something I want to do. I don't want to have these Ponzi games to where you have people that are just getting yield from other users, mainly because I
But
was I was basically the guy who was getting farmed on when I was playing early DeFi.
the second that that you start to see house, like once there's a robust market for housing NFTs, there's going to be so many degen games built atop it. You're going to have staking. You're going to
Oh
have
yeah.
fractionalization.
Yeah,
You're going to have
those are
everything.
fine. Those are fine. What I'm saying is having a legitimate one. Like,
Mm,
there will be some protocols that come out and they say, "Hey, look, this is 123 Main Street. We have 10 out of 10 NFTs," which they really don't. So, like, the issue you run into if that is fake is if you don't have new investors coming in, they aren't getting the yield. One, two is if they do end up buying all 10 out of 10 NFTs and they look to go buy that house, the owner is going to be like, "What are you talking about, dude? I never fractionalized this."
interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure that the what the court of law would do in that case. I would hope that the business that's tokenizing it is kind of has its act like legal side of it together enough to have a
Yeah,
stronger case, right? Like that's pretty much what it hinges
yeah,
on.
it'll have to be regulated for sure.
Um, Maybe Wyoming could do it because Wyoming's like starting to get more laws together around DAOs. Have you looked at all like the legal structure?
I haven't.
Because basically Wyoming has like a new sort of LLC type that is for a DAO, um, and it has to like jump through certain hoops. But I think for something like this, it wouldn't necessarily be the biggest like issue. So anyway, that's super interesting. Is there a place that people should like follow, like just follow your Twitter or like your YouTube where you're like building this in public and people who are interested, like if I find developers who are interested, I can send them your way?
Yeah, they can send me a DM on Twitter. They can contact me through YouTube. I'm also on Discord. I'm on Telegram. So my link tree is on Twitter, so you'll be able to get all those links there. But yeah, I mean, if any developers are looking, man, my door's open. I'd love to connect and get this built.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Um, how is the like? I know they were like usually this focus on crypto, but whatever. It's a llama party. We can talk about anything at parties. How is the real estate market doing? Do you think? Um,
It's slow. It's slow.
do you
It's
think
slowed
it's?
down a bit.
Do you think it's gonna get worse before it gets better?
I don't. I think the rental market's going to pick up because as interest rates rise, I mean, if people can't buy a house, what are they going to do? Well, you got to live somewhere.
Makes sense.
Either you're going to go rent a house or you're just going to roommate and buddy up with people. Either way, that's going to affect the rental market positively. Like, why in the world would I want to buy a house with a roommate? me and him wouldn't buddy up together to go buy a house. We would buddy up together and rent a room, or
Right.
not rent a room, but rent a house.
Makes sense. Makes sense. For people who have homes, are they going to see their values going down over the next 6 months?
Yeah, I see it as going down because if there's less buyers in the market.
Yeah.
But then again, you also have the aspect of um, the dollar being inflated. So this is how it works. I mean, the government they want houses to go up. When houses go up, they make more money in taxes, and they also want a house to go up for other people because it makes them feel wealthier. But then you have the aspect of the dollar being inflated to an oblivion. So the dollar being priced in, or the house being priced in dollars, is going to go up because the dollar is going down. So it's not that the houses are going up; it's the dollar is going down.
Mm, makes sense. Makes sense. And it kind of looks like it's tough to say. I think Yellen is meeting with top financial regulators right now. But it sort of looks to me like, from what I've been able to understand with the Fed's kind of recent moves to backstop all the failing banks, that we're in this like really hilarious situation where they're still raising rates to fight off the effect of inflation from all the money printing, while
Save
simultaneously
face.
while simultaneously
They're just
printing.
trying to save face.
Yeah. Which is such a ridiculous clown economy that we have. Um,
Uh,
so, but basically,
I
like,
mean, honestly, it would be better if Curve just ran the Fed.
I would agree, but no one asked me. I don't get a vote in this economy.
But
But
I've taken a bunch of Curve. I should be able to vote.
I,
I'm gonna vote on the Fed gauge.
it would actually be a better system. Like it's the closest I've seen it pretty much ever to like a quote unquote direct democracy, the ECRV, and people actually participate and you get kind of good results from it. So
Yeah.
um, it is some of the craziest times we've been living through. So you said that you like see parallels with Revelations. Do you actually think we're in the end times?
I think we're getting close.
Hmm.
Um, but to know for sure, I couldn't say. Nobody knows the exact date and time.
That's
I
that's
mean,
verbatim quote from Revelations, right?
it is.
Let's see. I'm not as religious as I should be, but I've done my homework. Generally speaking, tell me if I'm being rude with this question. But like, how does the like Christian community look at cryptocurrency? Are they kind of pro, con?
That's a good question. I mean, for me, like obviously, like going to church and whatnot. I mean, a lot of people don't really know about cryptocurrency. I don't really think it has a major effect, but maybe that's just the church I go to. Maybe at other churches they may think different. I think it's just like a person by person basis.
Hmm.
I can say this for sure. Being in real estate, people know I'm in crypto or see that I talk about crypto or have the YouTube channel. They think I'm a scammer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they think people in crypto are scammers.
I mean, unfortunately, a lot are.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
maybe we need some more like kind of outspoken Christian faith to penetrate the crypto community just to get this more of a sense of values. Because it's like we said, it's like really soul crushing to see what people are doing to each other.
All they see is Do Kwon, SPF, 3AC boys. That's all they see. They don't see any of the good stuff.
Yeah, I know. And it's really
The
rough
news.
because at least 90% of the people I interact with, like within crypto, I find to be just amazing human beings, not just like in terms of intelligence, but in terms of like just really good human beings in like the way that like they're good to and treat other people. Um, how do we get that message out?
Just build,
Just build,
just
yeah.
build, and prove them wrong, and prove different. That's all I can say.
You're not a
I
developer
mean,
yourself,
you,
right?
you can't. No, but I can network, and I have a lot of protocols in the space, and uh, I help in that aspect. I'm not the keyboard cruncher. I mean, I could type fast, but I can't code. I mean, I can read a little bit here and there, but I'm more so the people person. Like to meet with people, connect with people, connect protocols with other protocols, network, that type of thing. Even help building with the tokenomics, that type of advisory role.
Have you thought at all about learning to code? Or is
I
it
have,
probably not for you? Because it's a bear
I
market. Like,
have,
it's a good time to pick up some skills, right?
yeah.
ChatGPT will do
It's
most of the work,
just
right?
that's true. That's true. I just feel like it'll take too much time. That's why I haven't really messed with it, but I should learn.
Let me know if you want. I used to teach a class at the University of Washington on coding, so I might be able to help out there.
Really? So do you code yourself?
Yes, yes. I spend most of my time coding actually. I think people know me most from like the few hours a day I spend like doing YouTube or like writing stuff. But I do that like just to like get a release. Like I'm most hours a day I'm spent in a terminal.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, I mean, if you want to connect off stream, I'd love to see if we can work together, see if we can get that out, because that's what I'm looking for as a coder. So
Yeah, man. Definitely happy to talk turkey. Good stuff. Good stuff. I think we should probably call it pretty soon since you say you have to jump to your next call pretty
yeah, I
quickly.
gotta jump in like 12 minutes. I gotta go get ready for the other one.
Yeah, so we'll let you get a chance to get like get some food and water in you before the next one. But anything coming up from your side other than this that we should be on the lookout for? Anything you want to plug? You mentioned your channels. I think I posted that in the article so people know where to find you. Anything else that you'd like to shout out?
Not really. I mean, other than that, we have a private Discord group where just a bunch of degens congregate and see what's up going on in the markets. But other than that, that's it.
Private? Like
Just
how does one get
Twitter.
access? Just know you?
There is a Patreon. You guys
Oh,
can
nice.
anyone if they want to join there's a Patreon group. If they want to jump in, they can go through that. But other than that, that's really it. Twitter, YouTube, and pretty active on Discord. So just basically talk about what I'm doing in the market, and we basically just chat back and forth. It's a smaller group. Don't expect like 1,000 people. It's like 50, 75 peeps. We
Those are
just
like the
go
best
at it.
groups though. Like just like if
I
there's
know
like
it's fun, dude.
a
It's
few dozen
fun,
people
man.
who know each other and trust each other and can just like be like, hey, I just heard about this airdrop or I just heard about this.
Yep,
That's where
that's
all the
exactly
information.
what it's like.
That's where all the info spreads in this space. I'm convinced. So
That's exactly what it's like. And then in there, you got like, oh, okay, this is our NFT guy. This is our trader. You got your guy in the Discord. And so, like, if ever anything comes up, you're like, hey, dude, what do you think of this? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's legit. Or, oh, no, dude, don't touch it.
that's really cool, man. That's really cool. Excellent. Well, everyone join Drake on Digital's Patreon. That's everyone's homework. We'll see you all in the Discord. Other than that, thank you so much for joining. Take care.
Cheers.